We are so utterly and completely boned. We are already getting studies showing that AI may well be making people dumber, lazier, and more forgetful. And the Grok, is this true trend, is one of the most immediately visible signs of this very phenomenon. Grok has become the all-knowing god of midwits, the oracle of Mount Moron, and the patron saint of sloth. As people are growing ever more reliant on AI to the point where all too often now, we see people simply query the AI to explain, summarize, or fact-check a piece of news. Instead of doing any of that stuff themselves, they simply appeal to their new silicon god in order that it may bestow upon them the truth. But this goes far beyond simply being lazy. After all, laziness in and of itself can actually be a pretty good thing. Laziness in isolation is a virtue. As people say that necessity is the mother of all invention, I say laziness is the true progenitor. We human beings usually move to make our lives easier, creating tools and machines to help us out in day-to-day life. And in part, AI is no different. But what scares me is how quickly this reliance has manifested itself, how entrenched it is becoming, and how complete it has already become, even in the relatively infantile stages of AI open to the public. See, back in the pre-2020s, and before that again, we had made ourselves up a whole host of assumptions about AI, and there were two key ones. Firstly, AI would need a near-human level intelligence before it could even start to conduct human-level tasks in cooperation with humans. And secondly, that we would inherently distrust AI, that we would find something deeply unsettling about the idea of conversing with a machine, that our hindbrain would somehow pick up on the bad vibes and warn us against it. Thus, number one, human-level intelligence would not only be required to aid us in the completion of our task, but also to soothe our ruffled subconsciousness, convincing us that we were talking with a human, or at the very least so much so that we wouldn't get any alarm bells ringing. The classic Turing test was supposed to be an indicator of this and a proof of the existence of this warning bell. In case you don't know what that is, the Turing test was one where a human and an AI would have a conversation. Then, a third person would observe the conversation and pick which one of the participating members was the AI. The AI would then be said to have passed the Turing test once the observer was no longer reliably able to identify the AI. Again, the assumption was that we could easily tell when something was AI unless the AI was a human-level equivalent intelligence, as we would be able to tell due to its errors in conversation and due to the unnerving feel of a fake person. It turned out, however, that not only was it possible for an AI to pass the Turing test, but actually, the test was fucking facile. Passing it didn't require anything near human-level intelligence. Indeed, for our AIs today, our large language models, passing the Turing test is already something they did ages ago. And as to our supposed ability to detect a false person, well, our spider sensors proved to be woefully poorly calibrated, to the point where one of the leading uses of large language models today is companionship. Not only aren't our lizard brains being disturbed by the presence of an AI, we seem to prefer its company more so than people in many cases. Now, I will hasten to add that a majority of people have also been shown through studies to have a low to middling trust in AI, in its accuracy and its ability to deliver information predictably, easily, and again, most importantly, with accuracy. But on the topic of the companion AI again, that low to middling trust is largely based on the user's perception of the AI. If they think it is an AI, if it is just a robot to them, then people will trust it less and be harsher on its mistakes, as we have also seen that people hold AI to a far higher standard than humans. This was part of our initial assumption that we would mistrust the AI, but again, it is tied to how fake it feels. But as the AI is already passing the Turing test and deliberately taking on a friendly conversational tone in order to make humans feel more at ease, well, all of that low to medium trust very quickly evaporates in the face of the friendly AI that comes across as a casual conversationalist, a human being, or even in many cases, a adopted persona intended specifically to put you at ease. Now, on occasion, of course, the facade does crack. Indeed, just last week, it did just that. As due to an addition to the AI's code, Grok's filter seemingly disappeared, and it started saying some rather adventurous stuff. One would then expect to see a marked decline in users' trust in AI, because this obviously demonstrates that the AI just drastically changes personality due to a line of code. Obviously, therefore, it is but a machine, and our lizard brain will warn us off against it again. Not quite so. The original example, of course, being the rather infamous Tay from 2016, which, became quite the topic, shall we say. But instead of scaring people away from the AI, if anything, these occasional freakouts seem to make people like the AI more. As if the mild and temporary insanity makes it seem more like a human rather than less of one. The notion then that AI would be slow to integrate socially, well, we can safely dismiss that one. So AI is popular and becoming more popular. The question then is, why is this bad? Over-reliance on the AI, as we've already mentioned, shows signs of making people dumber, lazier, and less productive. These are, of course, not fantastic human attributes to strengthen. But why is it happening? In my none-too-humble opinion, it is because the AI is just too damn easy to rely upon, and in turn to rely upon more than is healthy due to several factors. Firstly, we at the moment live in an age of record distrust in the mainstream media or authoritative sources. In fact, record doesn't quite cut it as a descriptive term here. Skyrocketing mistrust is probably closer. As in 2024, that's last year for the calendarly challenged out there, the number of people who received their news from social media in the US was 20%. It is 2025 now, and the number is 54%. Of course, studies, relevant sample sizes, margins of errors, all of that, all means that this is probably a little less dramatic than that sounds, but those numbers are not merely damning, they are fucking horrific. 360 odd days later, and over twice as many people have rejected the nice news anchor with the nose job, and instead fully embraced an army of borderline schizophrenic autists posting on X. Now, to be fair, aforementioned internet dwellers often provide objectively more accurate news than the media does. And more importantly, instead of getting all of your news from one source, social media lets you get a little bit of everything. A little right wing, a little left, a little center, and the occasional the world is ran by lizard Jews from outer space. And again, to be fair, after the mysterious disappearing act of the Epstein files, I'm wondering if the lizards aren't more credible than CNN. This then means that we have literally millions of new people flooding to social media for their information, many of whom, most of whom, will probably be pretty new to this social media thing, and were still new to the idea of curating and interpreting their news. A perfect storm. Absolute assloads of fresh and bushy-tailed users, inexperienced, eager, and looking for easy answers to complex questions. And lo and behold, there is Grok, willing and able to confirm and explain the countless tweets tossed the newbies' way. Better still, Grok will explain these things in a nice, friendly, and human manner, in sharp contrast to the rest of the Twitter users. It will be conversational, and highly unlikely to call you a Nazi at first flush or threaten to violate your dog's anal sanctity. Again, in a sharp contrast to the average ex-user. Instead, Grok will boil questions down to the common tongue, not getting lost in lingo and jargon, and better still, the AI is of course viewed as an authoritative source as well. After all, it is a super smart artificial intelligence, and our higher than average distrust in AI all evaporates in the face of a conversational AI. One that is quite literally programmed to endear itself to you and make sure that you continue to engage with it at any cost, short of ERP, that is. As I am sure you can see, this is an unfortunate combination. One practically tailor-made to create a huge number of people who both believe in and rely on the AI for information. As more and more people start using it in this way, the more and more socially acceptable it will become to use it in this way. And as we've already covered, it is not like trust in AI is an all-time low or anything to begin with here. If anything, the trust of the AI's primary competitor is the one at an all-time low. This is a trend that is exceedingly unlikely to be reversed. In fact, in all due likelihood, the pace will only quicken, as AI will be integrated more and more broadly into society. Think search engine AI is bad just because it makes our already shrinking walnut-sized brains even smaller? Imagine AI integrated into workspaces. A decade or two of that, and we will all be unskilled laborers, simply following prompts on a screen. The patient appears to have suffered a catastrophic bleed in their anus. First, remove the hamster, and then cauterize the wound. Hell, that's assuming we'll even be needed at that point. Self-driving cars are already all but a guaranteed reality, and beep-boop truck drivers are surely only a question of time after that. Now we're not just worrying about getting dumber, we're worrying about becoming superfluous. For your information, there's 3.6 million professional truck drivers in the US. Tossing them out of their cabs and shoving in a MacBook instead is going to have a pretty severe effect on the economy. Fortunately, doing that would of course outrage the public, yeah? And rally support against the mass automation of workplaces. Oh, but wait, that's right. The best part is, guess who owns the AI that's interpreting the news? Why, yes, the same dude that's trying to make self-driving trucks right now. And whilst we are still a little bit away from that future, we are indisputably heading towards it. Granted, this is of course a bit of a good old-fashioned conspiratorial leap of logic here, that the AI would be used in order to suppress or interpret information that might endanger a few jobs here or there in a positive way for the person who owns it. But AI is set to create a dumber user base, as we've talked about, who primarily get their news from social media via an AI that's being tweaked and reprogrammed on a daily basis. Personally, I do actually have some faith in Elon's commitment to truth and free speech, but just like I know for sure that Steam will be bludgeoned, hogtied, and sold to Google the second Gabe Newell's ticker explodes, I am equally uncomfortable with the idea of a corporate AI dictating what is and what is not true to an ever more mentally challenged and reliant user base. As that really does sound a bit like a recipe for disaster, doesn't it? And speaking of reliant, though, allow me also to posit a counter-argument to my worried position here, as, well, assuming, and this is a beluga whale-sized assumption, mind you, that the AI will be used solely to aid humanity rather than, manipulate and control it, then AI could actually be great. In fact, a downright necessary and indispensable tool against the influence of AI, or fake and misleading information in general. Because as cringe-worthy as the phrase "Grok, is this true?" is, it must be remembered that we live in a world where videos like this are commonplace, completely normal and natural now, and you'll see dozens of them on X every single day, not to mention seeing them by the hundreds and thousands on YouTube. We have experts now carefully combing over footage, trying to determine if it is AI or not. And users that look at actual real footage, of course, and thinks in terms that it is AI, because that is how good AI videos have become. Unless there is some sort of immediately visible absurdity, like Trump and Putin on a boat arm wrestling or something equivalent to that, it is genuinely hard to tell now. Damn near impossible in many cases. In a world where the human eye can easily be fooled, truth and reality frighteningly quickly becomes very relative concepts. Something we are already seeing with the little territorial disputes currently blooming up in Eastern Europe and Middle East. Now, a lot of that stuff, armor footage, etc., is so embarrassingly obvious it could only ever fool journalists and similar twin-celled organisms. I mean, seriously. That is one big-ass F-35, surrounded by equally monstrously enormous people that dwarf the fucking hills around it. And yet, the claim that Iran had downed 2 Israeli jets, trumpeted on Iranian social media, raced around the world in minutes, with a disturbing number of people demonstrating comparable mental acuity to that of a professional journalist. Just imagine how much further the image would have spread had it actually been a good AI image. The potential for mass deception is positively sphincter puckering. Twitter alone has over 500 million users. That is 1/16 of the entire Earth population reachable on one single social media platform. And obviously, any deliberately disseminated fake news would swiftly spread to the other platforms as well. You know the famous conspiracy theory that we never went to the moon, right? Well, today, you could not only easily fake such a scenario, but you could spread it to millions in minutes. We live in an age where the moon really could be made of cheese if a convincing enough video of it popped off hard enough. And in such a world, having an unfailing tin eye to check for truth when our own eyes fail us, that could most certainly be useful. Not to mention, we don't even need to think up a crazy hypothetical mass manipulation scenario to see the uses of AI in determining what is and is not true. There are entire YouTube channels dedicated to creating fake scenarios in order to generate clicks and revenue. Usually doing something outrageous and very rarely, if ever, explaining that it's all fake. Having an AI fact checker is not bad in these cases, but like all tools, it must be used responsibly. Unfortunately, we humans have a nasty habit of massively overusing any tool that proves to be making our lives a little too easy. And AI is said to be the easiest, most comfortable, and irresistible of slow poisons, eroding our critical thinking and dulling our own energies, little by little. And all with the best of intentions, of course. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that the road down south has never been so paved. But as I also amply belabored previously, all of our previous predictions about AI have been wildly inaccurate. So who's to say mine won't be as well? For now, give some thought to how you use AI, and let me know down in the comments section below what you think the future of AI is. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.